Good evening, dear brothers and sisters of Facebook. Good evening to you. We'll kick off in about a minute here. I actually got on early. I do that for my other broadcast. I don't normally do it for Thursdays, but I decided to clack on a little early. So we'll give it about a minute to send out that notification. Let the peoples know that we're here. And if you're watching, give a shout out, say hello. All that kind of good stuff. Glad to have you watching. If you missed any of these Thursday broadcasts, of course, they're all here. I'm also posting them on my YouTube, my business YouTube channel, which we've shared the link. And if you want to catch up without sifting through all my videos on my page, just let me know and I can get the link to you to anything we've done on the Thursdays available to you. So, again, we'll kick off a few seconds here. Got on a little early. Oh, excuse me. Wow. That came out of nowhere. Just want to check something here. I do apologize. And then anything we've done on Thursdays available to you. So, again, we'll kick off a few seconds. Okay, good and clear. So I want to make sure I was clear. All right, let's get started. You know me, I'm just going to roll with it because how Facebook works in particular, you don't have to actually click onto the video. You just scroll through the page and it'll play. So you can be watching and not actually officially tuned in. So I just go for it and then let it be what it be. But good evening, Gabe here. And let's talk about advice. Advice. I don't always do this, but I want to read what I posted yesterday. Advice. Good, bad, wise, unwise. How do you feel about giving and receiving advice? Have you ever stopped to really consider the nature of the advice you have received? Did you ask if it was coming from a wise, reliable source? How do you determine good advice from bad, wise from unwise? How do you respond when you find out that it was poor or bad advice? What do? How do you respond? We'll definitely get to that one before we get out of here. And there may be other questions that we raise, but we certainly want to address that last one. How do you respond when you realize you've gotten some bad advice? I didn't do this, but let me do it quickly. It's the luxury of sorry about this. And I just want to do this just for the sake of it. Let me go to Merriam's here. Let me go to Merriam's and Webster's. So there's a few definitions here. Recommendation regarding a decision or course, conduct, counsel. Recommendation regarding a decision or course of conduct, counsel. Information or notice given, usually used in the plural. Official notice concerning a business transaction. So clearly that first one, a recommendation regarding a decision or a course of conduct. So I did this because I wanted to be because sometimes people refer to advice and really they're just talking about a conversation where there wasn't actual specific advice or counsel. So advice is that moment when someone says, what I think you should do, what I recommend you should do, and then some are trying to be a bit more indirect with, well, what I would do. That's just a semi-clever way. It's a semi-clever way of giving advice, right? So advice specifically is in connection to a decision, and I want to make sure we get that in connection to a decision. some type of counsel concerning a conduct or situation, right? So that's advice. So let's go back and look at what we said. Good, bad, wise, unwise. How do you feel about giving counsel concerning a pending decision, a circumstance, and receiving advice, right? Have you ever stopped to really consider the nature of the counsel, the nature of the suggestions that you're receiving that are meant to help you make a decision? Let me stop right there. Have you ever stopped to really go, am I receiving good counsel? Not necessarily from a counselor. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about issues of life. Somebody passed away and I'm going to counsel. Now, in a counseling session, the counselor may give some advice. See how specific that is? That's very specific. So advice is some types of suggestions. Advice is not commands. Even though if you were raised in a home like I was, I advise you to XYZ. Well, that's not advice. That's a command. That's a you do or die. No, advice is, whether friendly or not, I'm not here to talk about did they say it in a friendly manner, but advice are essentially suggestion. It's a suggestion towards helping to make a decision, how to handle a situation, etc. That's what advice specifically is. That's what advice is. So again, have you ever really stopped to think about, are you receiving good advice? Have you really stopped to consider the nature of the advice you're receiving? The suggestions that you're receiving. In any situation. I'm not being specific right now. In any situation. From something as serious as raising children, or something in your relationship at your job, or with a spouse or boyfriend or girlfriend, to something as simple as, girl, should I wear this? Man, what you think about this suit? What advice do you get? I mean, we don't use the word that demonstratively, but that's what we mean. This tie or this tie, right? What you're seeking is advice. Get it? Man, should I wear these with this, man? What do you advise? We don't use the word, but that's what we mean. What is your opinion? Not just your opinion on those shoes are nice. No, what is your opinion on what I should do? It's a specific kind of opinion. It's an opinion meant to help in making a decision. Oh, I'm working now. It's an opinion that's meant to assist the one receiving it to make a decision about something, some pending circumstance, some pending situation. That's what advice is. It's not just an opinion. It's a stylized opinion that's meant to try to help a person, A or B, right? A, B, or C, to pick from options. Now, that's really general, not dealing with any particular situation. But in a second, I'm going to show you why. And most of you, if you've lived any length of time like I have, you already can tell why this is important. But let's think about this for a moment. Advice. Someone's suggestion, someone's opinion meant to help another person make a decision. Very general. But think about some of the major decisions you have made in your life, as I think about some I've made. To get married, to stay married, to change jobs, to change living locations. Some people like to refer to family members, older family members, refer to or go to them for advice. Grandma, what do you think I should do? Grandpa, what do you think I should do? Some people think that just by being, I'm getting in it now, just by virtue of the years they've lived, They are good advisors. I'm being so specific now. A lot of people have opinions about a lot of things. I'm not just talking about opinions. I'm talking about people who give advisory opinions. People that you might trust to give you an opinion that will help you make a decision. Now, to show you how specific this gets, most of you know what I do for a living, right? So somebody could call me, text me, whatever, and say, Pastor Gabe, Pastor Matthews, elder, whatever, doesn't matter to me. You know, I'm dealing with this situation. This happens obviously a lot. I'm dealing with this situation. Oh, okay. They're not necessarily saying, what do you advise me to do? They may say, what do you think about it? Oh, well, man, that's really tough. I still haven't given advice. I see what you mean. Man, that's difficult. Praying for you. Okay, bye. Thank you. Click. I didn't give advice. Now, here's an opinion that's not advisory. I want to make sure we get this clear before I go any further. Here's a non-advisory opinion. Man, that is a bad situation. I don't know how I would feel, because in my opinion, wow, if that was my so-and-so situation, wow, I don't even know what I would do. As a matter of fact, I'm actually telling you, I don't have any advice by saying that. I don't know what I would do. I'm telling you, my opinion stops at, that's a tough situation. In my opinion, I agree. Wow, that's difficult. Or, oh, that's awesome. That's wonderful. You have a job opportunity? That's great. That's my opinion. I still haven't given a suggestion. I haven't given advice. So I want to make sure we're very, very, very clear on what we mean by advice. Because in many cases, when people call me or text me or however they contact me, they're not necessarily seeking my opinion. Let me just have a conversation. But on the same token, there are those, quite a few, who also do contact me to get my opinion. They don't just want me to feel what they feel about their situation. Stay with me. Are you hearing me? Because I'm going to get all in your situation. You know what I do. They don't want me to just go, man, I understand. Oh, I hear you, man. That's rough. That's one level. No, they actually want me to, and what I would do is, what I'm thinking you should do is, see? Different. That's way more than just simply expressing a favorable or unfavorable sentiment or opinion. No, an advice is a suggestion. It is what I think you should do, what I feel you should do. Are we clear now? I want to make sure we're clear. I'm taking the first 10, 15 minutes to make sure we separate this out. Because watch this. You ready? I'm going to get in trouble. You ready? Because many of us claim to have very close friends that we go to when we are going through something, right? You tracking? But if you stopped for a minute and realize, while you love them because they seem to always agree with your opinion about your situation, it doesn't mean that they give good advice. Yeah, I got you. You didn't see that coming. I have people that I am friendly with. I'll even call friend. But I would never go to them for advice. I might even share with them my situation, but I never share my situation with them in a form that says I want advice. I ain't even begun to get in trouble tonight. I'm going to get in trouble tonight. I can see it. I might even lose a couple of friends on Facebook. I probably will. I'm going to be okay though. but I see I might get in trouble. So I have a lot of people who are acquaintances. Okay, friends. But there are a very, 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 very few people in my 47 years, almost 47 and a half, come next month, that I would trust to formulate my issues, my situations, the decisions I'm facing, with any desire to receive advice from them. Let me do it again, because I want to make sure I'm knee deep in the muck and the mire. I want to be so deep in this quicksand that you never see me again. I want to drown in it. So I got tons of acquaintances. You can't be in ministry and not meet people. It's just how it goes. I've done customer service jobs. I've worked as a teacher. I've worked as a teacher's assistant. I've worked in an office full of people. So I've been in many circles. Of course, I grew up in association with the Churches of God in Christ. Met many, many people who are on here through that affiliation with the Churches of God in Christ. Many. And yet, I don't change what I'm saying. Now, don't contact me. Gabe, am I one of those people? Because if you have to contact me to ask me, you're not one of those people. Those people know who they are. They know who they are. Well, Gabe, you've never asked my opinion, so then you're not one of those people. Now, don't get butthurt. I just don't know you like that. We have not come to that point. Now, what's so fascinating is that obviously, while I do get requests for advice and counsel on how to deal with it, again, Pastor Gabe, Pastor Matthews, whatever, I don't get asked that by everyone either. And I'm not hurt. My feelings aren't hurt because not everyone sees me the way someone else does. I can name 10 people right now on my Facebook page who have asked me questions, seeking advice, told me of situations and decisions that they were facing, seeking advice. From family members to people I've gone to school with to people I've known from a religious context. But I got 969 individual accounts. And do you think 969 individual accounts or that represent people have asked me my advice? No. 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 And am I hurt by that? No. So how do you feel about giving and receiving advice? That's the first question. Now, some of you, people come to you seeking advice. Ask yourself this question. Let's just get honest real quick. Are you really as comfortable with giving advice as they want you to be? As they want you to be. I know they keep coming to you, but are you as comfortable with it as they want you to be? So have you ever found yourself saying, hey, I'm not really one for giving advice. Well, I'm not really one for giving advice. Well, I'm not really one for giving advice. Have you said that? Have you found yourself trying to tell them, trying to convince them, look, I'm not really one. Yeah, I'm not really the one for giving advice. Have you ever tried to convince somebody? I mean, if you want my opinion, I don't really get all fidgety and nervous. Well, I don't really give advice, because some people get mad. Oh, no. I want to know what you think. Well, I've seen people get just nervous. Just like, as soon as somebody even formulate their mouth to ask them for advice, they just almost fall apart. It's almost tragic, to be honest with you. So the reality of it is, what I'm saying is, not everybody is built in a way, if you will, to give advice. That's not everybody's cup of tea. That's not something everybody feels comfortable doing. And I want to say to you, if you're listening to me, or if you know somebody on your page, share this with them and tell them they have permission, watch this, not to have to give their suggestion, their opinion on people's situations. There's no mandate in friendship or marriage or whatever. Listen to me. As a matter of fact, for those of you who are married, what do you think about this tie? Now that don't work because women typically don't have a problem. So let me flip this. Honey, what do you like this dress? Do you think this dress is better than others? Women, pay attention to your husbands. Pay attention to your fiancés. Pay attention to your boyfriends. If he's not one for giving advice, if he's not one for sharing his opinion, or maybe he's comfortable with giving advice, but he's not a fashionista. He doesn't really care even about his own fashion. He'll just put on whatever. He can be mismatched. He can be wearing a blue sock, a red sock, yellow pants, or orange shirt, and green shoes. Why are you asking him for advice about your outfit? I know you're like, Gabe, really? Yes. Yeah. I think there's just as much of an issue here about seeking advice from people who freeze up, who don't know how to give it, who don't ever want to give it. You know why they don't want to give it? Because they don't want to be responsible if you take it and it doesn't work. There's a measure of responsibility, whether you want to admit it or not, wives, girlfriends, fiancés. When you ask him, well, I just want him to stop. I just want to know what he thinks. Come on. If you're fishing for a compliment, then just say you want a compliment. But when you say, do you think this looks nice on me? Which is a very bad way to try to get a compliment. Take it from someone who's been married. That is a very sad way to get a compliment. You never say, I look nice. Wow. What a way to go for it. That's a whole nother. Let me regroup. Okay. I'm back. I had to go take a break. So the reality of it is, some people are just not equipped to give advice. Some people are not equipped. They're scared. They don't want it to go wrong. They'll even tell you, no, I'm good. Whatever you think, whatever you want to do, hey, I'm with you. Even if they don't agree with one of the options, they won't say because they're scared. And we just keep pushing. Well, you're my brother. You're my husband. You're my wife. You're my child. You're my bestest friend. So we just keep pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing. And when they stop taking your phone calls, when they stop responding to your, hey, can I ask you something? It take them 2 hours to respond. And you get mad. Hey, I needed your help 2 hours ago. Well, what did you want? What did you want? I needed some advice. Well, if you're supposed to be their best friend, can't you read the tea leaves? Can't you see their facial expression? They don't want to give advice. And it may be they don't have a problem with giving other people advice, but because you fly off the handle and because you go off because of what they're going to say to you, especially if their opinion is not the one you're almost trying to make them take. Oh, I'm going to get all in your business. You know what I do on Thursdays. You know what I do. Some of us, we seek advice, but really what we're doing is trying to force our besties and our husbands and our wives and our fiancés and our co-workers and our mamas and our daddies and our brothers and sisters and our uncles and our cousins and our play cousins. What we're really trying to do is make them say what we want. Hey, let me ask you something. You don't want to know what I think. No. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Okay, go ahead. Do you think the blue dress that I like the most, that I paid the most money for, that I think I look the best in, and if you don't say you like it, we're not going to be friends anymore, looks better than the red one? Dun, 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 dun. Obviously, what you want them to say is yes. And if they're me, I'm going to say the red one. I'm just telling you now, I'm going to say the red one. Just to prove my point, I'm going to tell you red every time. Well, the red one? Really? Yep, the red one. Now what? Well, okay. Well, don't ask me. Have you ever heard that? I told you. Some people don't have a problem with giving advice. They just have a problem giving advice to you. Have you ever said or heard somebody say this? If you don't want to know, don't ask me. I'm gonna go in tonight. I feel good. Got me some air on, keep me cool. I'm gonna go in. I was in 10th grade taking typing class, and they had 10th, 11th, and 12th graders in the typing class, right? I so happened to have a class with my cousin Sean. Okay? Now my cousin Sean had two friends in the class, Rebecca and Rashonda. I'm 10th grade. They're 12th grade. My cousin, two friends, typing class. Everybody got to sing? Merced High. Hoorah. Merced High Bears. Yes, sir. Class of 92. So we're in the typing class, and my cousin's friend, Rashonda, said, Gabe, let me ask you something. I said, okay. Just stay with me now. Don't get mad. I was in 10th grade. Don't get mad. Gabe, do you think I'm fat? Now, before I could answer, I looked at my cousin. My cousin looked at me because my cousin knows me. She knoweth from which I come. So I was going to give an answer. And my cousin said, I don't think you should ask that. And her friend Rebecca, sitting on the other side, said, ooh, put her head down. Now, Rebecca didn't know me either. Obviously, Miss Rashonda didn't know me as well. Now, I'm in 10th grade. Cut me a break, people. Cut me a break. I'm in 10th grade. She said, no, I want to know. So my cousin was like, well, you take what you get. She asked me my opinion. She asked my view. So I gave it to her. I told her as nicely as I could, you can stand to lose some weight. Needless to say, that was not what she wanted to hear. And before she could go off, my cousin didn't look at me like gay. No, my cousin looked at her and said, I told you. Now, let me translate that communication. In other words, I agree with Gabe. I knew what Gabe was going to tell you because that's where he comes from if you've never met my father. That's where he comes from. He's in 10th grade. He's going to just answer the question according to his honest opinion. And obviously, I added to my opinion some advice. Yes, I think you can stand to lose some weight. Again, Rebecca put her head down. I didn't even blink. Now, am I like that now? Yeah. Sort of a little bit. I'm a little bit more diplomatic than I used to be. I'll be honest. That was 10th grade. That was 30 years ago. Cut me a break. 30 years. 31 years ago. Cut me a break. Take it easy on her, brother. So understand, don't ask a question and don't seek advice unless you're ready to receive it. And at least have some respect for your friend, for your husband, for your wife, for your co-worker, to ask them, hey, let me ask you something. I need to ask you 2 questions. Okay, what's up? Are you comfortable with giving people advice? Well, Gabe, I've never thought about that. I know. I give advice for a living. It's kind of part of ministry. It's what we do. Now, my advice comes from the scriptures. So it's probably a little bit more than advice. But we'll just call it advice for now, right? So people call me for advice. They don't really call me just to talk. They call me so they can tell me what's going on. And Gabe, what do you think I should do? And then I do my job and tell them what I think. From the scripture, usually 99.82%. Sometimes I'll throw Gabe in there, but that's just, depending on how well I know you, The reality of it is, but just talking in general, now that's my job, but just talking in general, I don't make it a habit of talking to a lot of people about what I'm up against and asking advice of them, because I'm going to be honest. I don't want to know. I'm just giving you some time. Be honest. There's a reason why you're not asking a bunch of people, because you don't want their opinion. It ain't mean, it's just true. Well, why don't you call me? Have you ever had anybody tell you that? I have. Over my life. Well, why don't you ever call me for advice? Do you really want me to do I'm not in 10th grade anymore, so I'm a little better. The Lord has healed me from the inside out. Praise Jesus. Praise Jesus. Do you really want to know? I don't call you, one, because I may not even know you like that. Two, I don't always need advice. I'm not bragging. I just don't. But three, maybe because I just don't want advice from you. Any one of those reasons work for you, they work for me. Now, I'm one of those people, I tend towards experts. Now, let me explain what I mean. Since I'm bringing myself, I'm using me. You know me. I don't want to use anybody. I'll use me. I tend towards experts. And what I mean by that is, if I wanted to buy some jewelry, right? I wanted to buy some jewelry. I'll call somebody in that business who's been dealing with jewelry. If I know anybody in that business, now we got a lot of people who are making jewelry and all this, so I might be apt to call one of them and they can give me some insight about jewelry. I don't care if you got more bling than blingish than Mr. T. It doesn't mean that you actually know jewelry. It just means you like buying it. And you may be one of those people who are not very conscientious about your money. Now, see how nice I was? You might not be conscientious. Hey, I'm on a budget. So if I'm going to buy some jewelry, I've got to really be considerate about my money and also who I may be buying it for, whether for me or somebody else. So I tend to like to talk to experts to get advice from experts. Don't get mad at me. I have a lot of friends in the counseling business. My pastor's wife, I know a lot of people who are counselors. So if there's something I don't know, even with my degree in psychology, I call them. Don't get mad at me because I don't call you. If I got experts, if I got people with 2 or 3 master's degrees and PhDs, I can call them. Now that's just Gabe. That's just me. They are watch this, they are used to giving advice in their areas of expertise. When I was working as a teacher, I didn't ask the janitor how to run a classroom. I didn't ask his or her advice on how I should deal with children. Now, granted, the janitors, some of you don't realize, have to deal with children too. Some of those janitors, custodial workers, have children themselves. If they've been in the custodial business in school for 30 years, they probably have seen some stuff and they understand some stuff. But when I need to understand how to educate a child, when I was in the educational system, I didn't ask the custodians. I asked fellow teachers. I asked fellow TAs. I asked principals. I asked school counselors. Do you understand? Not everybody is meant to give advice, watch this, on every subject. Let me get in trouble. I'm not in trouble enough. Let me get in some more trouble. How about this? So, Gabe, I'd like to go to my grandma. I could talk to my grandma about everything. But let me ask you something. Let's say grandma had children, husband died, your grandpa died, and she never got married again. Let's say she was married 7 years, long enough to have 3 children. Her husband died, she didn't get married again. So here you are, let's say young lady, and you want advice from grandma about men. Grandma has been a widower for 30 years. I'm just asking, are you going to ask grandma about some advice about men who was only in a relationship for 7 years, has been single for 30, or are you going to ask somebody who's had some relationships? See, we don't even think about this stuff. We just do. No, I always go to grandma. I don't care what you say, Gabe. I always go to grandma. So let me ask you a question. I'm a whisper. What are you going to do when grandma dies? She's grandma. She's 2 generations removed from you. Eventually, given enough time, your big advisor is going to die. If you are the type of person who needs advice and the only one you go to is grandma, you're doomed. You're doomed. You're doomed, man. You're totally doomed. You're doomed. Now, I don't normally do this on Thursdays, but I got to do it. There's this one book, some of us call the Holy Bible, that says there is safety in a multitude of counselors or a multitude of advisors. There's safety. You can get some potentially life-saving information if you have good, solid advisors. Now, I've been clowning around for the first 20-something minutes, 30 minutes, but let me get real serious. You've got to recognize this is one of the most serious aspects of a person's life. And not just because of what I do for a living. I really believe that bad advice could be harmful. That bad advice could cost you your life. That bad advice could be dangerous. Now, hopefully nobody has that kind of testimony. Hopefully no one has that kind of testimony. But unfortunately, I know people who got advice on cars to buy that have faulty wiring. I know people who got advice on baby carriages and things like that, and I don't even want to tell you what happened. Bad advice, not just from individuals, but bad advice from companies, bad advice in politics, bad advice, period, can be dangerous. Bad advice can be dangerous, people. Do you understand what I'm saying? If you have a doctor who gives you bad advice, it can cost you your life. Well, Gabe, you know, they went to medical school too. Do you understand how dangerous that is? Do you understand what you're suggesting is that you're going to trust potentially your life or your children's life or your spouse's life or your aging parents? Oh, listen to me now. Your aging parents. I got a good friend. I don't know if they're watching, but they told me, Gabe, the doctor works for you. I was like, what? Yeah, Gabe, the doctor works for you. If you don't believe that doctor is speaking on your behalf, if you don't believe that that doctor is giving you the kind of advice that really is what you need, what do they tell you? Come on, somebody type it. Get a second. Oh, you didn't think this was serious? You just think Gabe was pulling these subjects out of midair? No, I live by advice. If I go to the doctor, I'm going to a doctor's appointment for my son. I have to trust that doctor, that family practitioner, to give me the right doses for my son. I have to trust that doctor to be able to properly diagnose and advise us on what to do if there's a situation with our son. Do you understand how serious advice is now? Do you get how serious advice can be now? Even if you want to go spiritual, okay, I'll do it. I don't normally do it, but I'll do it. I'll do it. I don't make it a habit of just ministering to people. I don't do it because in 28 years of doing this, I've seen, and obviously my whole entire life, obviously been around it, I've seen people get some bad ministry advice. They went up for prayer, and I see the situation you're in, and I'm telling you what you need to do. Well, Gabe, no, that was from the Lord. Was it? Was it? Was it? You sure? Sure? Well, it didn't work out. Trust me, I've seen it not work out. And I mean badly. Some people try to go to their pastors and elders. Listen to me quickly. Do not try to matchmake. Do not. Pastor, what you think of him? What you think of him? Well, he seems like a nice guy to me. But it's all about what you want. I don't like to give advice necessarily in those areas. I don't. Now, people ask me, and I don't care how biblically astute I am, there's nothing in the scripture that calls for me to be a matchmaker. So do not call me. What do you see in the spirit? I see you getting on my nerves by asking me to be a matchmaker when I told you that's not what I do. I'm tuning in. I'm tuning in, and you're about to be cussed out in the spirit if you keep asking me to matchmake you. That means I'm not going to use cuss words, but I'm going to use words that are a similitude. Don't ask me to be no matchmaker. That's not my job. That's not my job. Now, if I'm your friend, I'll be like, well, you know, based on what I know about you, that's how I talk. Based on what I know about you, seem like to me, that's how I talk. That's how I talk. Raising children, things like that, I give advice, but I'm usually very careful. Because every child is different. Every parent is different. Do you understand how serious this is? So notice, did you ask if it was coming from a reliable source? That's one of my questions. Have you ever stopped to ask yourself, is this a reliable source? Are they knowledgeable about the thing you want to ask them about? Do they have a track record of telling the truth? Not just being boisterous, not just being loud, and because they're so loud and so charismatic or whatever, you just think that, well, look at how much they mean it. I'm an intense personality. If that's all you need, you'll believe anything I say. I'm an intense personality by nature. That don't mean I'm accurate. That just means I'm intense. Excuse me, that's all it means. Just because a person is your bestie don't mean they're a reliable source. Just because they've known you since pre-K and y'all sat in doo-doo diapers together in the nursery room, just because y'all went to the same church and sung in the same choir for the last 30 years doesn't mean that person is a reliable source for advice. Let me get in some more trouble. I don't feel like I'm in enough trouble yet. Husbands, wives, don't say nothing, but just listen to me. Just because you love your husband, just because you love your wife, doesn't make them good advisors. Woo! Gabe, you getting in it? Yeah, I'm getting in it tonight. I'm getting in it. I'm excited. I'm just about here on the quicksand, but I got to get here. Just because you love your spouse doesn't mean they're good advisors. For example, I got to give an example because I really want to bury myself. I want to get up here in the quicksand. If your husband is bad with money, do you think it's a good idea to ask him his advice on financial issues? If I could, I'd click like on my own broadcast. I would do it. Okay, y'all. That was too nice. Let me see if I can get worse. Oh, I know. Just because you're somebody's parent, somebody's grandparent, it doesn't mean you're a good advisor in terms of raising children. It doesn't mean that you were a great mom or dad. Your kids barely survived childhood. I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry. You want to come giving me advice on what to do with my son? Don't get offended if I ask you about your kids. What? Is that it? Did I hit that button? Did I find it? Did I find that button? I don't assume just because your kids are grown that you're a good advisor in raising kids. Well, at least Gabe, my kids are grown. Well, that's just because my son was born nearly 12 years ago. That's the only reason why he's not grown. It's just a matter of when your children were born or how old you are. That ain't got nothing to do with nothing. The average kid will make it to adult life. It doesn't mean that they had quality parenting. I think you're giving yourself way too much credit. Look, I'ma say it. Not every mom and dad, and I know Father's Day is days away. I'm a father. I'm going to say it. Not every father, not every mother is a good mother or a good father. Period. Because if they were, what do we need Child Protective Service for? Talk to me. Why do we have Child Protective Service if every mother and every father are good mothers and good fathers? Why are we taking children out of homes if every mother and every father was a good mother and a good father? Why are grandparents at a higher percentage than ever before raising their grandchildren if every mother and every father was a good mother and a good father? Why do we have the foster care system if every mother and every father was a good mother and a good father? Why do we have orphans if every mother and every father were good mothers and good fathers? So don't tell me just by virtue of your presence in and around the children, you are now in a position because your son made it to 21 to give me some advice about my son at 11. Don't confuse yourself. Don't be confused. Don't trick yourself into believing you are a good advisor. It's because you survived giving your children cough syrup when they weren't actually sick. Because you got away with leaving them in hot cars and they didn't die of heat exhaustion. Because you got away with not putting them in their seat belts. Because the law was not heavily, it was always there, by the way, but the law wasn't enforced. So you got away with it. And now you don't understand why people going off about putting kids in seat belts and putting them in car seats. Yeah, your kid survived. Oh, don't get me wrong. There are some decisions you got to make as a parent. Tough decisions, especially as a single parent. I know. But don't brag because you survived. Don't brag because you got through by the skin of your teeth, because your child didn't call Child Protective Service, because you never got caught. Don't assume now that you would be a great advisor. Oh, I lost my whole audience on that one. I hit a nerve right there. I don't care. You got to understand, I have parents who call me for advice. I worked at a group home and I met their parents. I worked as a teacher and I met their parents. And some of those parents, woo! As a matter of fact, most of the teachers I talked to said, Gabe, I don't really mind the children. It's those parents that get on my nerves. And I didn't rock with that until I became a teacher. Then I said, well, I understand what you mean. So, last question, and I'm done. 12 minutes. How do you respond when you find out that it was poor or bad advice? What do you do? What do you do? How do you respond? What do you do? Do you go off? Do you fight? You cuss them out? Walk away? Pray for them? Slap them? I mean, what do you do? When you get bad advice, when you realize you try to do it, or you get a second opinion, maybe from somebody who a bit more knowledgeable, and they go, what did they tell you? Oh, they told me I should do this, da-da-da-da-da. Oh my God, I can't believe they told you that. When you find that out, what do you do? Okay, I'm gonna add another level. Especially when it is a spouse. Especially when it is a parent or a grandparent. Especially when it is a pastor. Especially when it is your best friend. What do you do when the advice comes from someone you love and you trust? I'm not suggesting they lied. No, I'm just suggesting they gave you really, 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 really bad advice. Now, I've already said some advice can be dangerous. And let me just say this. I should have said this in the beginning. There are some situations, again, in the multitude of counselors or advisors, there's safety. You really should get advice. And a matter of fact, a second opinion, maybe even a third opinion. For things like surgery, right? Well, my doctor said I have to get surgery, so I guess I have to get surgery. I would recommend, just for the sake of it, a second opinion. Especially if they gotta cut some stuff and remove some stuff, just to be safe. Now, if you have an emergency situation, I understand. Probably going to be a little difficult to get some second advice and some third advice, right? I'm thinking about relocating. Oh man, I want to move to another state. I hear it's just so much better there. That's a moment I recommend advice. And I don't recommend you get advice from somebody sitting next to you in the state you live in. I recommend you get advice from someone who lives where you're talking about going. Now, that's some advice. I've lived in 3 states. I'm giving you advice as someone who's lived in multiple states. I advise you to get advice before you relocate. I know 2 or 3 people right now, for whatever reason, are moving to Georgia. I don't even know what's in Georgia. Well, I've been to Georgia, but I don't know what's in Georgia for them. I'll be like, oh, okay. One who already did, and 2 others who are on their way there or just moved or whatever the case may be. I don't know. Hey, something's going on in Georgia. All I'm saying is there are some situations we really do need to get advice on. And I'm not above advice. Not only giving it, but receiving it. Don't get it twisted. I have received advice. I'm not necessarily a fan of unsolicited advice. Let me say that one again, because I got some very loving people on my page who mean well. I know you do. I'm going to say it, women. I know you mean well. The reason why I don't say a lot about my son on my page is because I got older women who for some reason, I guess, assume that if I say something about my son, I'm saying it because I need advice. Let me just go ahead and fix that myth. That's a myth. No. I don't post on my page needing advice most of the time. If I need advice, I ask for it. I'm not above it. I might say, oh yeah, my son, when he was younger, oh, he's really fussy. Right? Put that on Facebook. Now, I'm just saying that in the moment of fussiness. I wasn't saying it because I needed somebody. Okay, Gabe, what you need to do? You need to give him a good bath. Give him some warm milk. You need to do. You get him some fresh clothes. Put on a fresh. Duh. I was married to a person with 2 kids who already knew that stuff. I was just expressing as a new dad a moment of parental frustration because my son was fussy. Now, he wasn't a fussy type of kid, but that's just an example. But here they come out of nowhere. Oh, Gabe, now what you need to do is you need to do. Did you see me formulate a question? Can somebody give me some advice? Can somebody give me some advice? Now, look, I don't mean any disrespect. I know you feel like, hey, Gabe, I'm 50, I'm 60, I'm 70. I got 10 grandchildren. I got 42 great-grandchildren, whatever. My grandmother, when she passed, was 90 years old, and it was 27 grands and a gabillion great-grands and 2 gazillion great-greats, and I don't know how many it was. My mama know, I don't know. It was a lot of us. She had 9 kids, and each one of her children had at least 1 child. Do the math. So that's at least 9 grandkids. Now, my mother had 3, my aunt had 3, my other auntie had 2, my uncle had 3. So there was a lot of us. I didn't go to my grandmother for advice, even though she raised 9 children. I didn't necessarily go to my mama for advice, even though she raised me. But I am not a fan of unsolicited advice. I'm not. I'm just being honest. If I didn't ask you and you're just telling me, guess what I'm going to do? Dismiss you. In here, I'm not going to be rude. I was raised better than that. But I'm just going to dismiss you. You have to understand how serious advice is. You're just rattling off advice. You don't know me. You don't know my situation. You don't know all the specifics that go into something I'm posting or something I may be saying to you standing there. So we just standing there having a conversation. Yeah, man, this car. See, what you need to do is, okay, and you're going to pay for that? Oh, yeah, it could be expensive. Exactly. So instead of running off at the mouth with advice that I didn't ask you for, that I didn't come to you for, we just having a conversation, offer your opinion, tell me about your own car, if you like, but don't tell me about my car, or my son, or my parents, or my siblings, or my job, or my life. I didn't ask you. Why? Because if you give me bad advice, and I take it, I'm part to blame, but so are you. So let me answer the question of what I might do. If I get bad advice, I might come let you know. I'll be gentle. But I might just feel the need to say, hey, you remember that advice you gave me? Oh, yeah. That didn't work. Well, every situation is different. Exactly. Well, it's up to you. I figured it was up to you to take it or leave it. Exactly. So if I didn't ask you for the advice, why are you giving it? Hope I've been clear. I know we started out a little humorous and a little lighthearted, but I want to make sure you understand. We need to treat advice, giving and receiving, with far more respect. We need to treat it with far more respect because, again, some of the things, simple. What do you think I should wear? Simple. Maybe that's simple for some people. But other things are way more serious. Way more serious. Now, for those who are Christians, if you've ever read the Old Testament, the kings in particular had advisors. I just recommend read through First Kings, 2 Kings, and you'll see what I mean. How serious it is when you get bad advice. How deadly. Some of you, Gabe, I ain't gotta go to the Bible. My own experience tells me. And if that's your situation, hey, I feel for you. I truly do. Look, you don't want to be on the bad end of bad advice. You just don't. You just don't. All right. That's all I got for you tonight. I could say other things, but there's no need to get into it. Check your source. Ask some questions. Be respectful. Ask some questions. Is this a reliable source? And they're not reliable just because of their relationship to you. As a matter of fact, my last bit of advice, build relationships, friendships in particular, with people. If you feel like you're the type of person you don't always trust your own advice, then I think you ought to build friendships with people who are good advisors. And tell them, you know, one of the things I love about you, well, what is that? You give great advice. Now understand, if you choose to tell them that, they may feel a little bit of pressure the next time you come seeking advice. But if they're good at what they do, some people have a knack for it. Some people have a talent for it. They're just really good at it. They think it through. They're thoughtful. They're slow to speak, quick to hear. They want to hear you through. If they don't really get it, they'll tell you, you know what, I don't really know on this one. They'll tell you, you know what, I'm not really sure on this. If you push me, I would tell you to do this. But you know what? They have humility, right? They would say, you know what? I don't really know on this one. If you just wanted me to give you an answer, I would say this. But you know what? They'll even recommend another person. As a matter of fact, if you don't mind, I recommend a video or somebody else, or, you know, what we call refer up. In the counseling business, we call it referring up. Send you on up. Send you to a person who may be better qualified. All right, done. Hope this helps. If you think it helps, share it on your page. Tag some people in it. Get it to your page. Tag some people in it that you think maybe could make better choices if they had better advisors. Maybe they could. All right. Have a great one. See you next Thursday.